What up, YouTube? So today is going to be part one of the Acura Rsx Type S K24 swap. So today we're going to be taking out the engine and getting everything ready for the K24 swap, which we're going to be doing a TSX engine with pretty much all stock parts. We're not going to swap out the ECU or anything. Still everything pretty much from this motor is just going to bolt on to the K24. The only thing we really have to change is the CRV bracket for the driver's side. Passenger side actually, which is this bracket right here. Not this one on top, it's the one that actually connects to the side of the motor mount. So as far as that, we're going to be using this intake manifold. We will have to get a port adapter for the water port, since the K24 is adapted to the intake manifold. We'll be using this water pump housing, power steering, AC, everything pretty much off of this engine. The crank sensor is different, so we'll be using that. For some people who didn't know, that 6-speed bolts right up to the K24 with no issues. You just have to make sure you use the same type of clutch and flywheel for 6-speed. Same for 5-speed. If you're running 5-speed, you have to run the same clutch and flywheel. You can even run a 6-speed flywheel and disc. It's really just making sure that they are the same or they won't bolt up together. Right now, pretty much going to start getting this motor taken apart. So we're going to start by taking off the battery, and then we'll get to the intake and IV tech cover, and then we'll just start going around pretty much taking everything we need to get this motor out of here. We should be having the motor delivered today as well, so part two will be pretty much dropping all the stuff, the accessories that's not needed on the K24, and then we'll start adding everything on here to that motor. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and actually start get my tools ready, and then we'll come back and start taking those parts apart, and then we'll see, we'll go through exactly what you need to do to take out your Rsx swap. All right, so we're back. We got the battery out, our intake taken out, which was just a 10mm and a flathead, and then we got our IV tech cover off just to start being able to get to like the throttle cable bracket and cables. Right now we're gonna start getting to some pretty simple stuff with the 12. So we got our slave cylinder. Those are two 12mm right there. We'll take those off, and then we'll get to our shift linkage. We got these three 12mm right here, and then two cotter pins, so that'll get that out of the way. And then we got a ground 10mm. We'll take that off. We'll take off this 10mm as well to get the slave line out of the way. And then we got two 10mm right here for the throttle cable, so we'll take those off and get those taken apart off the throttle body itself. And then after that, we'll come back and see what we're gonna do next. All right, so we got our 312s off to get the shift linkage out of the way, and the two cotter pins. We got our two 12s off the slave cylinder, so that's out of the way. We got our ground off the transmission, so that's good. Next, oh, also, and we got our throttle cable out of the way with the two 10s right here. So those are done. Next, we're gonna be getting to a little bit of the harness. So these are two 8mm or Phillips. We're gonna take those off, and then we're gonna start getting to, we got a ground right here, just a 10mm, and then we're gonna actually start getting to the power steering. There's a two 12s right here, so one, and then you can probably see the other one right here. But first we gotta take the belt off. So this is a 14, and it's pretty much just a tensioner pulley, so you pull that, and then that'll loosen the belt, so we can get that off. Other than that, we'll probably start messing with the lines. So these are your three major lines right here. You got your brake booster, evap, and fuel line right here. So we're gonna get those taken apart, and then after that, we'll come back and start getting to this T bracket, and so we can, or actually we gotta take out the bumper first. So we'll get all these plastic clips off, and then I believe There's a 10, maybe a 10 or Phillips right here on each side. And then we might have something under the bumper as well, but I'll get to that after. So we're gonna get to the power steering, ground, and then start disconnecting our engine harness from the fuse box. And then we'll get to our brake line, our brake booster line, evap, and fuel, and then we'll come back. All right, so we got our evap line, our brake booster, and our fuel line taken apart. Pretty simple, just some clips pretty much on the line, evap and brake booster, and then just need to clamp this, and the fuel line will slide off. I got the 212s off the power steering, got the belt off, so that's pretty much ready to go as far as the next step when we start getting off this T-bracket. And I got the 8mm taken off the engine harness. So right now I'm gonna actually start getting to the bumper so we can get to this T-bracket, and there's a couple bolts we got to get to that. So we got a 10 right here, 10 over here, 10 right here, and then we'll see exactly when we take this bumper off. So I'll take these little clips off. Let's see if there's any bolts down here. Okay, so we got some Phillips right here for the cover, and I think these can stay right here on the bumper. I'm just gonna take the whole cover, some clips right here as well. So I'm gonna get this bumper off, and then we'll get to the T-bracket, and then we'll start getting to the alternator and whatever else is right here, the reservoir, and our AC lines as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock that out, and then we'll come back. All right, so we got our T-bracket off. One bolt I did forget is this one at the bottom, which is right like between the radiator fans right there on the radiator support. And then I went ahead and took the brackets off for the condenser. So the condenser brackets, or radiator brackets actually. So took those off. Those were 2 more 10s, and then there was another 10 right here once you take the bumper off, so on each side. So that's pretty much ready to go. Next, I'm gonna be getting to this reservoir. There's a 10 right here, and I believe a 10 down there. So we'll get to that. I already let the AC system come out, so we got 10 right here, 10 right here, 10 right here, and then we have a 10 right here to the other side of the AC line that connects. So that'll get our condenser out of the way. And then most likely I will start going, before we get to the radiator hoses and everything, start taking the exhaust manifold off, or the DC header. There's 5 14s right there. So you got one right here, one right here, one in the center, one right here, and then another one right there, kind of under the VTEC solenoid. And then we'll start getting to the wiring harness. So you just gotta get these clips right here and pull down. They're pretty simple. And then we'll start actually getting into the taking out the ECU, or just disconnecting it from the ECU. And then after that we get those ready, then we'll be able to start rolling it back. And then we'll bring the cherry picker. We still got to do a couple more things, so we got to take off this battery tray as well. What you can do is just take the 2 top bolts off, and then the 2 bottom ones you just have to kind of like just break them loose, and then this will slide up. And then we'll have our battery tray out. After all that's pretty much ready, then we'll start draining the radiator fluid out so we don't have too much going on the floor. And we'll jack this car up, get to the axles, and after that we should be pretty much getting this motor out of here. So I'm gonna go ahead, start knocking out the condenser, reservoir, and the exhaust manifold. Also, there's 2 more bolts connected to the cat actually at the bottom. but we don't have to really do those yet because I think the motor will still come out with just by disconnecting the exhaust manifold from the top. So I'll go ahead and start knocking those things out, and then we'll come back. All right, so we got our condenser out. I went ahead and took out the AC lines. There's two 10 millimeters right here, and then for this one I just used a crescent wrench. I got the battery tray out. I went ahead and unbolted the alternator. So 3 12 millimeter bolts, one right here, two right here, and then a 10 for the power, and then just a clip. I went ahead and disconnected the radiator, fan, and AC connection. So that's all ready to go. And then I disconnected the 5 bolts from the exhaust manifold. I think there's one more 14 I got to get down there, but I'll do that when I get to the half shaft. Right now, I believe we're going to start getting to the axles. Taking the wheels off, get to the axles so we can disconnect those. And then we'll be getting to the rear mount while we're down there. So there's 3 14 millimeter bolts. And then we'll also get to unplugging the ECU. So I'll show you guys where the ECU is if you don't know. So there's just some plugs right here. Wait, where are they at? Right here. Alright, there's 3 of those. You just push it in and they pop out. And then this cover will be exposing the ECU. I'll come back and show you guys after that. I get that off and then disconnect the C101 plug and the 2 plugs from the actual harness itself. And so we'll get that disconnected, and then we'll jack the car up, bring the cherry picker around, and start breaking down the mounts so we can get this motor up out of here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start knocking out the ECU first, and then we'll jack the car up and start getting to the axles. All right, so we're back now. I got the ECU wiring disconnected. I also forgot that this is connected to the firewall. So what I do is I just press these in and go around popping it out, each one, and it'll slide out. As far as that, let's see, check out just to show you what plugs are disconnected. So just these 2 main plugs and the C101. So you have to disconnect, and it'll pull right out. So I've also gotten to the axle so far on the driver's side. It's just a 19 and a 22 on this side, and then at the bottom of the ball joint it's a 17. I went ahead and disconnected the half shaft bolts, so those are 14s, and the cover, which is that right there, those are 3 12 millimeters. I also drained out the oil out of the transmission, which is just literally this tool right here. You just use the actual head and it'll come loose. I got the headers all taken apart, the exhaust manifold at least, and then now it's just time to do the other side. And then I also did the 3 bolts from the bottom out, so that's these 3 right here. Other than that, I just gotta pop off the other side, and I believe we can actually start draining the radiator fluid. After that, disconnect the radiator and then the 2 back heater hoses right here, and then bring the cherry picker and start getting to all the mounts. So we got the one in the front we still got to do, and then the 2 side ones. So you got 3 17s over here, and then you got 3 17s plus these right here, so 7 17s over here, and we should be able to pull this motor out. So I'm gonna go ahead and start getting to the axles and half shaft on this side, and then pretty much drop it back on its feet, and we'll be able to pretty much come take the motor out. So I'm gonna start getting this radiator fluid, everything out the way, and then we'll come back. All right, so we got our radiator disconnected, top hose disconnected, bottom. We got our rear hoses, heater hoses disconnected, and I took off the front mount bolt. So pretty much I got the cherry picker ready. We're gonna take off these bolts over here, these bolts over here, chain it up, and then pull it out. That's pretty much everything you need to do in order to get the Rsx motor out of the car. So other than that, I'm gonna go ahead and get this motor out of here, and then we'll come back and finish out this video. All right, so K28 motor is out and ready for disassemble on the next video. Next video I'll be showing you guys pretty much everything you need to do to drop the K24 in and stripping down the K24 as well. I also already have done the swap before on my channel, so if you want to jump ahead and see what you actually need to do to get the swap done, go ahead and look at the Rsx K24 swap probably a couple months ago, well actually almost a year. That'll kind of give you a little bit more detail before I finish this one, which should probably be done this weekend. So if you haven't, like, share, subscribe, comment, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys on the next video.